stopped my dad from walking with me on my senior night after he kicked me out and ignored my plea for help. I know I probably shouldn't complain so much, when, in the grand scheme of things, my life isn't so terrible. I mean, I'm just your average, middle-class American teenager. I have my own car, both my parents are well off, they own homes, I'm not living in Gaza or facing horrors like that. But I'm 18, a senior in high school, and honestly, I'm overwhelmed. I've worked hard for my straight A's, and I landed a full-ride scholarship to a university next year. Sure, it isn't my dream school, but free is free, and given how awful the economy is, my parents' comfortable situation doesn't mean much if I can save all that money. My parents divorced and both remarried a while ago. My dad has been with my stepmom for years, and my mom's been with my stepdad for about 5. A few months ago, I was diagnosed with a tick-borne disease that means I can't have red meat, or anything with it. It's miserable, I get so violently ill if I eat even a trace. I miss steak so much. A few weeks ago, the night before my fall dance, which mattered more to me than I'd like to admit, I was at my dad and stepmom's house. Normally, I wouldn't have been there, but my mom was out of town and I can't stand being alone. My dad was making dinner, my little brother's favorite, which, unknown to me, had beef stock in it. I'd never made this meal myself, and I checked with my dad before eating. He said it was fine, but right after I got insanely sick, he checked the recipe and realized what happened. He felt terrible, absolutely gutted. So, there I was, missing my senior dance, sick to my stomach, and feeling utterly robbed. I know, in the big picture, a missed dance isn't a crisis, but in that moment, it felt like my whole world was caving in. I got into this massive fight with my dad. He called me spoiled and high maintenance, and I remember screaming things like, "I hate you, you don't care about me," before storming out, sobbing, and heading to my mom's. We fought before, usually we just apologize the next time I come around. So, I figured I'd go back to his house on my usual day and we'd move past it. But this time, when I got there, he'd packed up my room, literally, everything into trash bags. He told me he wasn't going to take abuse from his adult child anymore. I thought he was joking at first, but he was dead serious. My stepmom was yelling at him while I stood there, crying. She slipped me one of her credit cards and told me to call her if I needed anything. Since then, I've been living at my mom's, but it's not great. My mom and stepdad mostly do their own thing. I feel like a nuisance in their house. To make matters worse, I recently broke up with my boyfriend, and he's been pestering me constantly. I asked my dad to step in and get him to leave me alone. My ex is terrified of him, but all my dad told me was that I need to deal with my own issues. So, embarrassed, I had to ask my stepdad, even though we're not close at all, and he didn't seem all that interested. Eventually my mom intervened, and finally my ex stopped harassing me, though now all his friends have taken to bothering me both online and at school. Now, my senior night for my team is coming up, something I always pictured as this big moment where my whole family would walk with me. I wanted my dad there. I even offered to take him to lunch so we could talk it out before the ceremony. I told him I knew I had gone too far with what I said, that I was so sick and upset after missing the dance, and being called spoiled stung. He admitted he knew emotions were high, but told me, "You're an adult now. Actions have consequences." I get that. But I'm hardly the first teenager to fight with her parents. I'm a good kid, I have a scholarship, a job. I know other kids who've gotten DUIs and their parents still support them, still let them come home. He said he loved me, but I needed to learn. He'd still come to my senior night, but I told him not to bother. At this point, I just wanted to walk the field by myself. I didn't feel supported by any of them, so I paid for lunch and left before falling apart. Then he threw down the final ultimatum. If I didn't let him walk me at senior night, I could forget about ever moving back in with him. I told him that was just fine. I'm done jumping through hoops to prove I'm worthy of living in his house. If my parents weren't divorced, it would never even be a question. I'd try to convince myself I'm alright with my decision. There's so much else going on. I'm dealing with my ex's friends, my performance on the team is tanking, and honestly, I'm probably going to be benched soon anyway. Now my grandparents and even my stepmom have been calling, begging me to talk to my dad, telling me how upset I've made him. I swear, I never wanted to hurt them. I just can't deal with all of this right now. Part of me doesn't even want to walk at senior night at all. Update 1. I'm an 18-year-old girl, and a few weeks back I got into a huge fight with my dad. He had completely forgotten about my allergy and cooked something for dinner with the ingredient I can't have. Of course, I had to miss my dance that night, and when I got upset and said he wasn't going to walk with me at my senior night, he got so mad he kicked me out. He packed me off to my mom's house. Honestly, I didn't even end up going to senior night at all and kind of forgot about the whole thing for a while. Not trying to be overly dramatic, but trigger warning here. My life, for a moment, became pure chaos. My coach isn't the warmest man alive, but at least during practice he witnessed my ex's friends, who'd kept harassing me after my mom finally forced my ex to leave me alone, slipping up right in front of him. They wound up getting punished. I hoped, prayed, that would be the end of it. It wasn't. A few days later, the world tilted again. I wasn't even at school when they did something I still don't want to get into, and this time it was serious. The police were involved and some of those guys ended up arrested. The rich parents bailed a couple of them out, but two had no one to post bail. My ex wasn't there, but he got charged with something else. He's over 18, still made bail, and then the charges against him got dropped. Maybe that was my fault. I know it sounds stupid, but before everything collapsed, I panicked and deleted all my ex's messages. It was too much for me to look at, too stressful to carry around proof of everything he'd said. Now my mom keeps pushing for police to get a warrant for those deleted messages, but I don't think it's going anywhere, and honestly, I don't know if it would even matter if they did turn up. I do have a restraining order against all of them now, thank God for that. There's this woman, Gail, who's been helping me. It's still unclear if she's some sort of social worker or an undercover cop, but she's one of the genuinely kind people in this mess. She told me if these guys don't take plea deals, there will be multiple trials, and I'll have to testify at every single one. I asked her when the trials would happen, because my future school is far away, but she told me not to worry. But of course I worry. I don't want to be yanked back from my new college life to testify, let alone at multiple trials. I desperately hope they take deals, even if it means they'll get lighter punishment. I get that they have legal rights and all, but the idea of testifying, I can't stand it. I've seen what happens online to girls who testify and get mocked. The thought makes me want to disappear. If, by some miracle, they could just combine the trials and I only had to get through it once, I'd probably be okay. But Gail told me not to count on it. She was gentle, just realistic. At least my mom and stepdad have been there for me. My stepdad and I don't really know each other that well, but he broke down over this and apologized, said it's his fault, that he should have done more. I told him not to blame himself. Now he's always doing thoughtful little things for me, making food I like without expecting anything in return. I feel bad about that sometimes. My mom's support has been constant, almost overbearing. She cries, just breaks down sometimes, which almost annoys me, because she's not the one it happened to. I haven't said anything about how it bothers me, but I can't stand it when she treats me like a little kid, cutting up my food and hovering. I haven't talked to my dad. I don't want to. The day before the incident, I begged him once again to say something to one of the boys' dads, since they work together. He left me on read. That's why, in my head, I put some of the blame on him. I know it's probably wrong, but I blocked him completely. I even hoped he wouldn't find out what happened at all, but since he was still my emergency contact, the police reached out to him. I fixed that now. He's made attempts, sent stacks of letters to my mom's house, daily for a week, and less so now. I haven't opened any and my mom just puts them aside. I told her to throw them out if she wanted. I know he must feel terrible, but I don't want his comfort or apologies. I needed him before this. I needed him to try to stop it from ever happening, and he did nothing. That's why I can't forgive him. My mom and stepdad at least tried. Even if what they did didn't work, at least they did something. I know it sounds cold, but I can't focus on his feelings right now. He's got my brothers. I'm not leaving him without a family. I'm an adult now. I get to choose who gets to comfort me, who gets to be in my life. Now, I see a therapist. She's fine, I guess, though her voice kind of annoys me and, honestly, I wish I could switch therapists, but I doubt that's an option for annoying voice. I hate therapy, but my mom keeps making a huge deal of it. Secretly, it feels kind of good to be the one in charge of my relationship with my dad, rather than the other way around. It's probably bad, but it's true. Lately, I just don't care. I'm not afraid to tell him to his face that this is all his fault, so it's better if I don't talk to him at all. I had to block my stepmom too, after I heard she told my aunt it was nice to have their house be just them and their own kids without my drama. Well, now they have it. Sometimes I wonder if they ever really loved or cared about me at all. Maybe kicking me out at 18 was always the plan, which is why something so small made him snap. At school, everyone knows what happened, but surprisingly, everyone has been kind, not just my dance team, not just my friends, but everyone. It's almost overwhelming. If any of them are being fake, I really don't care. I'd rather deal with fake kindness than real cruelty. I'm not some loser at school, but I've always done my own thing, not popular or anything like that. The only other person in my class heading to my future college is this one really popular guy, and he promised not to tell anyone about what happened. I know it'll probably get out eventually, but it was nice of him. He started talking to me more, even reaching out during school breaks. It's almost like he's trying to hype me up for college, which is comforting. Honestly, I was thinking about taking a year off after all of this, but maybe I'll go anyway. I think his parents both went to the same school. Maybe things will finally start to get better. My best friend is kind of obsessed with this whole college thing, so he keeps sending me updates about everything happening there. His older sister goes to the same school, and he told me he plans to arrive a week early and stay with her. He invited me to come along. Even though it's still months away, I told him I'd think about it. The truth is, I don't really want to, but I have this nagging feeling that even if it doesn't end up being fun for me, it might be good for me in the long run, to get out there before freshman week starts, meet a few people, maybe feel a bit less lost when everything officially begins. Meanwhile, I keep thinking about whether to talk to my dad. I thought I might give him a call at Christmas, but now I'm not sure. My brothers have told my grandma that they want to see me at Christmas, but let's be honest, it might just be because I always get them the best gifts. I'm weighing whether I could just go over to their house for a little bit. My mom and her husband aren't big into Christmas, they don't really decorate or do much celebrating, but my dad's side of the family is all about the festivities and traditions, and I kind of miss that. I'm probably going to end up doing all the more Christmassy stuff in town with my best friend's family. I know my mom and stepdad would do them if I asked, but for some reason, I think I'd rather just go with her family this year. Update 2. I didn't call him at Christmas. I told myself I'd just drop off gifts for my brothers and leave, and that would be it. I even parked on the street so I could bail fast. When my littlest brother opened the door, he launched into me like a backpack, and I almost lost my whole plan right there. I stepped inside because he wouldn't let go, and the house smelled like cinnamon and the candle my stepmom always lights when she wants it to feel like we're in a Hallmark movie. I was already bracing for weird when I looked down the hall and saw my old door cracked. There were paint swatches taped on the wood, soft green, a pumpkin color, and a bassinet inside with a tiny knitted blanket draped over it. It didn't register fast and then it all did at once. She's pregnant. No one told me. My brothers were bouncing around talking about cookie trays and whether Santa eats oatmeal cookies, like they'd rehearsed being normal. My stepmom stepped out of the kitchen wiping her hands on a dish towel, caught my eyes, caught me looking where I shouldn't, and her face did this complicated thing that I don't think I'll ever forget. I said congratulations. It came out perfectly nice. She started to say my name but my legs were already moving. I left their presents under the tree, told the boys I'd see them soon, and got back into my car. My dad came out onto the porch and stood there with his hands jammed into his coat like if he took them out he wouldn't be able to control what they did. He didn't come down the steps. He just said please, and I pulled away. 2 days later I was eating leftover Chinese on my mom's couch and Gail called. I always know it's her because she says my name like she's carrying it with both hands. One of the boys violated the order. He happened to be on the sidewalk outside practice, didn't say a word, but showed up with his phone out taking pictures. My coach walked him back to his car like a bouncer and then called the cops himself. They picked him up that night. His attorney moved like lightning to get him out and then pivoted to offering a deal. I thought deal meant nothing would happen. It turns out it means everything happens behind closed doors, which is somehow both better and worse. The DA already had more than I realized they did. Not from me, apparently one of the other boys didn't mute his iCloud backups correctly. Every stupid brag, every screenshot of my ex talking like a big man to his little minions, every she won't say anything, she's soft is floating around in a folder with my case number on it. Gail didn't say I told you deleting the messages wouldn't matter, but the truth of it sat between us anyway. She asked if I'd be willing to do a recorded call with my ex, a pretext call, which is what they call it when they ask you to go back into the same burning building you just crawled out of and pretend everything's fine. I said no the first time and then I lay awake all night staring at my ceiling thinking about him, saying I wouldn't say anything. In the morning I texted Gail and said I'd do it. The station smells like old coffee and winter coats. There were 2 detectives and Gail and a paper cup of water that tasted like it had been poured during the last administration. They had me read a script like it was a school play, all these tiny sentences I could choose from so I wouldn't say anything that would make the whole thing useless. I dialed from a number they gave me. His voice threw me back so hard I felt nauseous. He went right into it. Poor me, nobody understands, are you happy now? And then the part that made Gail put one finger in the air like, keep going, because he said he wished the guys hadn't taken it so far, which isn't the same thing as an admission of anything, but his whole tone told on him in a way you can't unhear. I stuck to my little lines. I asked why he told everyone I was a liar if he knew I wasn't. He said that's not what I said and then immediately explained what he did say. When it was over, I hit end and my hands shook so hard the phone clicked against my rings. Gail got me ginger ale from a vending machine that looked like it took tokens. On the drive home she told me nobody can promise results, she always says that. But she also said good job in this very quiet way that makes you believe her. My coach, this man who has never smiled at anyone on purpose, took a whole different tone with me after that kid showed up. He pulled me aside before practice in the empty gym where the lights make everything look flat and said, "We're doing your walk." I said, "What?" Because I thought we weren't saying the word senior night out loud anymore. He said, "I don't care if there is a crowd. We're doing it." He told me to be at the gym at 6 with whoever I wanted. I wore the white dress I'd bought and never got to use, which felt like cheating and also like winning. My mom and my stepdad showed up early. He had on this stiff blazer like he didn't know where to put his arms. The popular guy who's going to my future college brought flowers tied with tape because he didn't have ribbon. My best friend filmed on her phone, and the cheer captains dragged a paper banner out from somewhere and scrawled my name on it with a Sharpie. The sound system was awful and it didn't matter. I walked between my mom and my stepdad under buzzing lights while the 3 of them clapped like we were in a stadium. It was 5 minutes long and exactly perfect. If anyone else had wandered in, they would have thought we were crazy. I didn't cry until my stepdad, who barely talks at the best of times, squeezed my hand and said, "I wish we'd done it sooner." Gail called again yesterday. One took the deal, another's lawyer is doing that posturing thing, trial, we're not scared, which could be true or just a way to get more concessions. My ex got picked up again, this time on a violation they didn't tell me the details of, which I am fine with. There's a hearing set in late summer. She said they're pushing to cluster things so I'm not flying back and forth once I'm gone. Gone, like it's something I can actually do. I said yes to going early to campus with my best friend. We drove up in his mom's SUV packed like we were moving in for real, which we absolutely weren't. His sister's apartment is on the 5th floor of a building that smells like laundry and ramen, and she had a futon covered in blankets ready, like she'd been waiting for me. We walked the campus at night because he said it's prettier that way. It was freezing and clean and quiet, and I let myself have exactly 10 seconds of imagining this whole new version of my life with no one knowing any of it. We ate tacos at a place where the menu is handwritten in chalk, and his sister elbowed him and ordered mine for me because she had already texted him earlier to make sure nothing had butter or beef stock and I didn't even have to say a word. At the bookstore, he bought me a stupid overpriced hoodie with our future school's name on it, and I didn't take it off even to sleep. On the way home I watched the trees turn back into gas stations out the window, and my mom texted me a picture of an envelope she'd accidentally torn when it got wet in the snow. It was one of my dad's letters. She only opened it because the tape had peeled. Inside was a stack of printed recipes with highlighter marks and notes like contains beef stock and sub-veg broth in his neat, all caps handwriting. On top, there was a photo I hadn't seen in years of the two of us in folding chairs at one of my brother's t-ball games. I'm in a red hoodie leaning on his arm. On the back he wrote, "I remember what it feels like to get it right and I want to again." I brought a copy of this to Gail. I don't know what brought a copy of this to Gail even means in letter terms, but when I asked her she said he'd come in and given a formal statement, including that he'd talked to one of the dads before any of this and left me on read when I asked for help and that he thinks he failed me. She told me you can and ring bells, but sometimes it matters who rings the next one. My brothers have been FaceTiming me every night to show me ornaments they made out of popsicle sticks and glue. My stepmom texted me from a number I didn't recognize a picture of the ultrasound. The baby's feet look like little commas, and a message that just said, "I'm sorry for how you found out. I meant to tell you myself." I haven't answered. I'm not ready. I will be, maybe. I don't know. I'm holding on to the part where I got to walk my own walk and where the future is a hoodie and a paper bag in the backseat. That's as far as I can see right now, which feels like enough. Update 3. Spring decided it was a track meet. Monday before first period, the principal's secretary stuck her head into homeroom and did that finger curl thing at me like I was about to get in trouble, which is funny now. She walked me to the main office where a deputy waited with a folder and a voice that sounded like a gravel road. It wasn't a subpoena. It was an invite to speak at a sentencing if I wanted to. One of the boys pled out. Not my ex. One of the ones who used to wear too much body spray and follow him around like a shadow. His name at the top of the paper in block letters made my lunch sit wrong for the rest of the day. I put the folder in my backpack like I'd been handed a small animal and didn't want to drop it. Gail called that night and said the date was in 2 weeks. Victim statements aren't testimony, she reminded me in that careful way she has. No questions. You don't have to do it. She always gives me the exit. I said I'd think about it and then I stared at my ceiling fan while my phone buzzed with group chats about prom dresses and the senior prank and a TikTok of our chemistry teacher, mislabeling a beaker. I wrote one sentence in my notes app, "I am living anyway," and then I threw the phone under my pillow like I could smother the whole thing with feathers. Awards night was Thursday. Our auditorium smells like dusty velvet and peppermint breath mints. My mom made me wear the shoes that give me blisters because she said they look scholarly, and my stepdad tugged his tie like it was trying to throttle him. My best friend saved us a row with his jacket and a stack of programs he had absolutely stolen from a stand. The popular guy who's going to my future school with me slipped into the seat on my other side that didn't belong to him and whispered that his parents said congrats already like his parents own the concept of congratulations. They called my name too early, the kind of early that makes you wonder if they mixed you up with someone else, and I almost didn't stand because I didn't understand they meant me. It was a local foundation I'd seen on banners at 5K races and school carnivals, the ones who give you water bottles with their logo. The man giving out the certificate had on a suit that fit him and a smile that looked stapled on and said something about resilience that made my skin crawl a little. When I took the envelope, my fingers shook and flimsy white paper can feel heavier than it should, like a book that's going to fall open on the exact page that ruins you. It was enough money that my mom's face did that thing where you try not to cry and end up looking like a person who is squinting at the sun through an ocean. Out in the lobby afterward, there were too many cupcakes and too many people who wanted to touch my arm. I took my cupcake and hid in the hallway by the auditorium bathrooms where the tile always stays cold. Someone cleared his throat and I nearly launched the cupcake at his face, which would have been a waste. It was my coach. He tilted his head toward the trophy case. Someone had slipped our little DIY senior walk photo behind the glass next to a curling team picture from the 90s. My name in Sharpie on the banner looked like a joke next to all the engraved plates. I pressed my palm to the glass anyway. "It belongs there," he said, and even he looked surprised to hear himself say it. I didn't open my dad's letters for days. They sat under a plant on the kitchen counter, getting a circle of wet from condensation like they were sweating. I told myself not to look and then I did, standing there in my socks at midnight while my mom snored down the hall. There were more recipes with highlighter and a photocopy of an allergy card like the ones they give to waiters to hand to the kitchen. He'd written on the bottom, "I ordered duplicates for your wallet." Extras in the drawer by the stove, which I checked, and yes, there were little laminated cards lined up like tiny rectangles of apology. Also, a letter in his all-caps hand that said he had met with Gail again and had told the HR lady at his company what the other dad said to him months back. "I'm not naming him here," he wrote, "but I did in the room with the person who could actually do something. I didn't know what to do with that, so I did nothing with it and slept with the hoodie pulled up over my head like a kid hiding from a monster." 2 Saturdays later I was in a real courtroom for the first time. If you'd asked me when I was little what court looked like, I would have drawn this exact room. Wood everywhere, everything too shiny, seal on the wall, the flag a little too big so it seems like it's leaning. The bailiff had a voice that made you want to sit up straight. The boy who pled wore a shirt that didn't fit his neck right and had a haircut he probably got last night in a bathroom because the back line was jagged. His mom had the haunted look of someone who didn't sleep for 3 weeks in case sleep was the one moment the world picked to be unforgivable. Gail sat on my left and my mom on my right, and the judge read the plea like he was taking attendance. The DA said words like count and violation and terms. When they asked if I wanted to speak, my mouth said yes and my niece said, "Are you sure?" I walked up to that little podium that is exactly the height to make you feel 12, and I read from my printed page with highlighted lines like I was back in English class afraid of skipping a paragraph. I said the line about living anyway. I said that I don't go to the grocery store without checking over my shoulder now, and that sometimes if a car idles too long outside my house I taste pennies. I said I want the next freshman I pass on campus to think about her outfit and not about exits. I kept it short on purpose. The boy didn't look at me. I didn't look at him either. I looked at the judge's desk and the water glass on the corner sweating onto a coaster. After, in the hallway, you line up to exit because everything is a line here. He and his mom went one way, we went the other. Down at the end under those fluorescent lights that make everyone look like a hospital version of themselves, my dad was standing with his hands jammed into his pockets again like he's afraid of them. He had a small insulated bag at his feet and a piece of paper sticking out of the top with my name on it. Gail saw him and the tips of her ears went pink because she hadn't told me he might come, which I think was on purpose. He didn't try to move toward me. He just said my name in a normal voice, not the pleading one, and asked if he could leave the bag with Gail. "It's allergy-safe pastries from the fancy place on 4th, he said, and that was the first time in months I almost laughed, because only he would say allergy-safe like a brand. He added, "I know you're not taking anything I bring you. I wanted you to know I'm trying in ways that aren't letters." I let Gail take the bag. One of the pastries had a sticker that said no dairy, no egg, no red meat, and a tiny list that is ridiculous and also correct, and I ate it in the parking lot, in a minivan with a napkin on my lap while my mom watched me like she was watching a baby bird try to fly. It tasted like almond and not almond in that way fake almond always does, and it tasted like the fog coming off a lake at 6 a.m., which is to say it tasted like something trying to be something else and almost getting there. The week the lilacs exploded along our street, my stepmom texted again. A picture of a tiny dress with little strawberries on it laid out on their bed like a plan. "I know you're mad at me," she wrote. "I deserve that. I want you to know I signed us up for a class with a nutritionist who specializes in allergens because I didn't know how much I didn't know. If you ever want to tell me what brand of broth is safe, I will buy it by the case." I stared at the screen so long the phone dimmed. I typed Pacific and deleted it and typed whatever and deleted that too and then finally typed Imagine makes 1 2, hit send, and turned my phone over on the table so I didn't have to watch 3 dots. The popular guy showed up at my locker wearing a shirt the wrong color for his skin and told me we needed to go to the field immediately. I followed him without asking like I always do, and out there on the 50-yard line was a folding table with a plastic tablecloth and a cardboard box that had a mortarboard drawn on it in Sharpie. He'd convinced the yearbook editor to let seniors write lines for their quote that didn't make it into the book because they were submitted after the deadline. We wrote ours anyway and stuck them in the box. Mine said "I'm living anyway," because sometimes you only have one good line in you and you use it until it's part of your face. He wrote something dumb and perfect about coffee and ambition and got marker on his palm. He pretended not to notice when I wiped the ink off with my thumb. Gail called the next morning and said the second boy took a deal too. "Clustering is working," she said, which I pictured like pushing all the ugly furniture into one room and locking the door. "Your ex's counsel is playing games," she added, which could mean anything. The hearing that was supposed to be in late summer might move up, might move back, might turn into something else with a different name. "We'll keep you off airplanes unless you choose otherwise," she said, which made me laugh because nobody has ever wanted to keep me off an airplane so badly that they mention it twice. Prom crept up even though I pretended it wasn't on the calendar. I went because my best friend said he would in a voice that left no room for me to say no. My dress was one my mom found on sale and then hacked the bodice to fit like she was a magician. The gym smelled like hairspray and punch. I did my makeup myself and messed up my eyeliner and then pretended it was on purpose. The popular guy wore a tux his dad wore in the 90s as a joke and somehow pulled it off because he looks like someone who would be late to his own wedding but only because he was writing vows on napkins in the car. At prom, the song list was weirdly clean. Our principal definitely read it like the 10 Commandments. The cheer captains dragged me into a circle and I let them For 2 hours I forgot to watch the doors. My stepdad was the parent volunteer by the bleachers with a bow tie someone had to fix for him twice, and when they turned on the lights, he was the one with the big trash bag who walked me and my mom to the car, which is the most anticlimactic sentence and also everything I didn't know I wanted. Graduation tickets became a mess like everyone told me they would be. 6 feels like a lot until you put names on them and realize families in divorce math are always odd numbers. My mom gets 2 by default because it's my mom and my stepdad. My best friend, obviously, because the idea of looking out and not seeing his stupid haircut made my throat feel like gravel. The popular guy, because he's the one person who can explain to me what the dean is saying when I inevitably get distracted. That left 2. My brothers asked without asking, sending me videos of them practicing how they will wave in graduation appropriate ways. I pictured my dad standing in the parking lot with his hands in his coat because he refuses to make a scene in places with linoleum floors. I wrote one dad plus 2 brothers on a sticky note and stared at the math. I ended up going to the school office and saying I'd put 2 it will call under my brothers' names, and if their father wanted to sit in a corner by himself and pretend he didn't know how to make his face not look like a face, that was between him and the folding chairs. The baby decided to show up early. Not emergency early, but early enough that my mom knocked on my bedroom door with her phone against her mouth and her eyes big. We didn't talk about whether I'd go to the hospital because there are some places you don't bring old fights. I went to Target and stood in the baby aisle and almost cried at a pack of socks the size of thumb puppets. I bought the dumbest onesie I could find because humor feels like permission. Little hot dogs wearing sunglasses, which is terrible in so many specific ways considering my allergy, and also too perfect. I dropped the bag on their porch like a raccoon and drove away before anyone opened the door. 10 minutes later my phone buzzed. It was a picture of a baby with more hair than I had as a 2-year-old. "She's here," my stepmom wrote. "She's healthy. We named her June." I typed congratulations and didn't add anything else. Last night I went to my best friend's house and his mom made spaghetti with red sauce that had no meat because she always asks now, and we ate on the couch while his sister texted us pictures of the couch in her apartment we've both already claimed half of in August. On the way home, my mom took the long way without saying why, past our elementary school and the park with the terrible slide and the street with the cherry trees that drop petals like confetti whether you want a celebration or not. When we pulled into our driveway, there was a piece of paper tucked under the wiper blade. My heart did that ugly flutter and then I saw the all-caps block printing. It wasn't a letter. It was a photocopy of a certificate, food allergy training completion, his name, a date, a set of initials from some kitchen safety authority. On the bottom in his careful pen, "I'm late. I know. I'm trying to show up early for the next thing." I took it inside and put it under a magnet next to the calendar where we write birthdays and court dates and half days. It looks ridiculous there and also like it belongs. I don't know what any of this is going to look like in August when the hoodie isn't a symbol anymore but just what I wear to walk to a 9 a.m. psych class with a coffee shaking in my hand. I don't know what my ex is going to do with the games he keeps playing or whether the last holdout will fold. I know I'm living anyway. I know I'm writing that sentence until it's not a line in an update, but the way my days feel when I'm not thinking about it at all. I'm holding the door of whatever is next with my shoulder and it's heavy and opening. That's where I am.